The Grand Chamber was silent. 10,000 alien eyes watched from their seats as Kang Jin-ho walked to the center of the room. His footsteps echoed against the cold metal floor. Above him, the ceiling opened to the stars, reminder that they were all floating in the endless dark of space. Jin-ho was not a tall man. He was not strong in the way warriors were strong. But when he stood before the Galactic Council, something in his eyes made even the oldest species look away. He had been Earth's ambassador for 15 years. He had shaken hands with creatures that had no hands. He had learned languages that human tongues were never meant to speak. And now, he stood accused of crimes his people did not commit. High Counselor Viren sat at the highest seat, his gray skin shining under the lights. He was old, even by his species standards. His people, the Palaxians, had ruled the council for 3,000 years. They believed in order. They believed in control. And they believed that humanity was a disease that needed to be cut out before it spread. Ambassador Kong Viren said, his voice filling the chamber through hidden speakers. You stand before this council to answer for the actions of your species. The attack on Velen Station, the death of 400 Velen citizens, the destruction of property worth more than your entire planet's economy. Jin-ho did not move. We did not attack Velen Station. The evidence says otherwise. The evidence was created by those who fear us. A murmur went through the crowd. Jin-ho looked up at the thousands of representatives from hundreds of worlds. Some looked at him with hatred. Some looked with pity. Very few looked with belief. In the gallery above, Park Yuna gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. She was 32 years old, the youngest chief engineer in Earth's history. She had built ships that could cross solar systems in days. She had solved problems that alien scientists said were impossible. And now, she was watching her people be sentenced for something they did not do. This is wrong, she whispered. Beside her, Choi Tai-woo stood with his arms crossed. He was a soldier, tall and scarred from battles fought at the edge of known space. His uniform was decorated with medals, but today those medals meant nothing. Wrong does not matter to them, he said quietly. Only power matters. Below them, the trial continued. Humanity has been part of this council for 50 years, Viren said. In that time, you have grown faster than any species in recorded history. Your population has tripled. Your technology has advanced beyond what should be possible. You spread to new worlds like fire spreads through dry grass. Is growth a crime? Jin-ho asked. Growth without control is cancer. Viren leaned forward. You are young. You are aggressive. You do not understand the balance that keeps this galaxy at peace. The Vallone incident was simply the final proof of what we already knew. Humanity cannot be trusted. Jin-ho felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not save his people. High Counselor, I ask you to see a reason. We have brought nothing but progress to this council. Our medicine has saved millions of lives across a dozen worlds. Our engineers have built stations that benefit everyone. We are not your enemy, Viren agreed. You are not our enemy yet, and we intend to keep it that way. He pressed a button on his chair. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a region of space that was completely dark. No stars, no planets, no life. The dead zone, Viren announced. Beyond the galactic rim, unexplored, uninhabited. This will be humanity's new home. The chamber erupted in noise. Some cheered. Some gasped. Jin-ho stood perfectly still, staring at the map of nothing. You have 30 days to remove all human presence from council space, Viren continued. Any human found within our borders after that time will be executed. Your trade agreements are canceled. Your communication access is revoked. As of this moment, humanity no longer exists as far as the Galactic Council is concerned. Yuna felt tears burn in her eyes. They cannot do this. It just did, Tai-woo said. His voice was calm, but his hands had formed into fists. In the chamber below, Jin-ho finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but somehow everyone heard him. High Counselor Viren, members of the Galactic Council. I have spent my life building bridges between our peoples. I have believed foolishly, it seems, that reason and cooperation could overcome fear and prejudice. He paused, looking around the room one final time. I was wrong. He straightened his back and met Vren's eyes directly. You fear what we might become? You fear our growth, our adaptability, our refusal to accept limits. So you send us into the darkness, expecting us to die quietly? A small smile appeared on his face. You should be afraid, but not of what we might become. You should be afraid of what you have just created. Vron's gray face showed no emotion. Is that a threat, Ambassador? No, High Counselor. It is a promise. You have taken everything from us today. Our homes, our futures, our place in this galaxy, but you have also given us something. Ginho turned and began walking toward the exit. You have given us a reason. He stopped at the door and looked back one final time. 30 days, he said. We will be gone in 20. And when we meet again, High Counselor, you will wish you had killed us when you had the chance. The door closed behind him. In the gallery, Yuna wiped her eyes and stood up straight. Taiwu uncrossed his arms and looked at her. What do we do now? She asked. Taiwu thought for a moment. We survive, we build. And one day we come back. And then we show them what humanity can do when it has nothing left to lose. They walked out of the chamber together, leaving behind the world they had known. Ahead of them was only darkness, but in that darkness, something was about to be born. Something that would change the galaxy forever. The humans were leaving, but they would not be forgotten, and they would never forgive. The fleet stretched across the stars like a river of lights. 3 million humans floated through the emptiness of space, packed into every ship that could fly. Cargo vessels held families in their storage rooms. Military cruisers carried civilians in their hallways. Even pleasure yachts, built for rich tourists, now served as lifeboats for the desperate. Kang Jin-ho stood on the bridge of the carrier ship. Dawn's hope, through the window. He could see the edge of Council space falling away behind them. Somewhere back there, Earth was still spinning. The blue planet where humanity had been born. The home they would never see again. Sir, a young officer called out, we are receiving transmissions from the Council border stations. They are ... celebrating. Jin-ho did not turn around. Let them celebrate. They think they have one, haven't they? Now Jin-ho turned. The officer was barely 20 years old. His face was pale with fear and exhaustion. Around him, other crew members looked just as lost. They had left everything behind. Family members who refused to go. Friends who could not be found in time. Pets, gardens, graves. What is your name? Jin-ho asked. Kim Dong-woo, sir. Navigation officer. Officer Kim, do you know what the Council expects to happen to us? The young man swallowed. They expect us to die. Yes, they do. Ginho walked closer and put a hand on his shoulder. They expect us to starve. They expect our ships to break down. They expect us to turn on each other when hope runs out. That is what they expect, he smiled. And that is why we will not do any of those things. The dead zone was not truly empty. It was simply unknown. For thousands of years, the Council species had avoided this region because their sensors could not map it properly. The stars here were old and dying. The space between them was filled with radiation and debris from ancient explosions. On the third week, they lost their first ships. A radiation storm came without warning. 30 transport vessels were caught in its path. Their shields failed within minutes. 10,000 people died before anyone could reach them. Park Yuna was in her workshop when she heard the news. She had been working for 72 hours straight trying to improve the shield generators. Her hands were burned from touching hot metal. Her eyes were red from staring at screens. We lost them, Choi Tae-woo said from the doorway. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. 30 ships. Gone. Yuna threw her wrench against the wall. I told them the shields needed reinforcement. I told them a month ago. There was no time. There is never time. She sat down heavily on a crate. How many more will we lose before this is over? Taiwu did not answer. He did not know. The fleet pushed deeper into the darkness. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Food supplies ran low. Medicine ran lower. People began to lose hope. On the 63rd day, a young pilot named Kim Sora made a discovery that changed everything. Sora was 19 years old. She had learned to fly when she was 12, stealing her father's shuttle to race through asteroid fields. She was reckless. She was brilliant. And she was the first to spot the dead moon. "Command, this is Scout 7, she reported through her radio. "I am detecting unusual structures on the surface of the moon at coordinates 447. By 892, it looks artificial." Scout 7 returned to the fleet immediately. "You are beyond safe range." Sora looked at her fuel gauge. She had enough to get back. But the structures on the moon were calling to her. "Negative, command. I am going in for a closer look." What she found would save humanity. The structures were buildings. Massive ancient buildings made of materials that her scanner could not identify. They had been there for 1,000,000 years at least, untouched by time or weather. And in the center of the complex was a shipyard. Ships hung in the darkness. Hundreds of them. Ships built by a species that had vanished before humanity had learned to make fire. Yuna arrived on the moon 3 hours later. She walked through the abandoned shipyard with her mouth open in wonder. The technology here was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Engines that could bend space itself. Weapons that could crack planets. Shields that could stop a star from dying. Who built this? She whispered. Taiwu stood beside her, his weapon ready even though there was no threat. "Does it matter? Can you use it?" Yuna touched one of the alien consoles. Lights flickered on, responding to her presence after 1,000,000 years of sleep. "I can do more than use it," she said. "I can learn from it. I can make it better." 2 days later, Ginho stood before the fleet again. But this time, he was not speaking from a chamber of enemies. He was speaking to his people. "We came into the darkness expecting to die," he said. "The council sent us here to disappear, to become nothing, to be forgotten." His voice grew stronger. "But we found something they did not expect. We found a gift from the past. We found tools to build a future." The fleet was gathered around a planet they had discovered. It had breathable air. It had water. It had soil that could grow crops. "I name this world New Dawn," Jinho declared. "And I make you all a promise. One day we will return to Council space. Not as refugees. Not as victims, but as something they never imagined we could become." Behind him, Yuna and Taiwu stood together. Sora was there too, the young pilot who had found their salvation. "They sent us here to disappear," Ginho repeated. "Instead, we will build." And they did. The first year was hard. The second was harder. But by the third year, cities were rising from the surface of New Dawn. Ships were being rebuilt in the alien shipyard. Children were being born who would never know Earth, but who would grow up knowing something more important. They would grow up knowing that humanity could not be broken. The darkness had been meant as a grave. Instead, it became a cradle. 22 years passed in the dead zone. On New Dawn, the first generation of exile-born children had grown into adults. They had never seen Earth. They had never breathed its air or walked on its soil. To them, Earth was a story their parents told at night. A beautiful dream of blue oceans and green forests. But New Dawn was home. New Dawn was real, and New Dawn was just the beginning. Park. Yuna had not slept more than 4 hours a night since the exile began. Her hair had turned gray at the temples. Her hands were covered in scars from years of building and testing and failing and building again. But her eyes still burned with the same fire they had shown in the council chamber. "The 7th drive is ready," she announced from her workshop, which had grown from a small room to a facility the size of a small city. "It is 3 times faster than anything the council has. We can cross their entire territory in 2 days." Choi Tae-woo looked at the engine with doubt. He was older now, too. His scars had faded, but new ones had taken their place. "You said the same thing about the 6th drive." "The 6th drive only exploded once. It exploded with me inside. And you survived. Stop complaining." This was how they worked together. Yuna built impossible things. Taiwu tested them until they were possible. And between them, they had created a military that could challenge the entire galaxy. But not everyone in the dead zone wanted peace. The pirates came in the 15th year. Warlord Gorin had ruled the Outer Rim for decades before humanity arrived. His people, the Cathani, were tall and brutal, with forearms and skin like stone. They had been exiled from Council space long ago for crimes that even the corrupt Council could not ignore. Now they saw the human colonies as easy targets. They were wrong. The first raid hit a mining station on the edge of human territory. Gorin sent 50 ships, expecting to find farmers and refugees. Instead, they found Kim Sar. She was 36 years old now. The reckless young pilot had become Fleet Admiral Kim Sora, commander of humanity's entire navy. Her hair was cut short, and her flight suit was decorated with medals earned in 100 battles against radiation storms, asteroid fields, and now pirates. All ships. "This is Admiral Kim," she said calmly through her radio. "The enemy outnumbers us 3-1. They think this makes them strong," she smiled. "Let us teach them what strength really means." The battle lasted 17 minutes. Sora's ships moved like dancers, spinning through the pirate formation with precision that should have been impossible. The alien technology that Yuna had mastered allowed them to turn faster, shoot further, and shield harder than anything Gorin had ever seen. When it was over, 43 pirate ships floated dead in space. The other 7 fled back to their master with a message. "Tell Gorin that the humans send their regards," Sora transmitted as they ran. "Tell him if he comes back, we will not be so gentle." Gorin did not come back. Instead, he sent an ambassador. "The warlord wishes to negotiate," the Cathani messenger said, standing nervously in Jinho's office. The old ambassador had become a leader of millions. His hair was white now, and he walked with a cane, but his mind was as sharp as ever. "He offers his fleet and his loyalty in exchange for protection and a share of your technology." Jinho considered this. Why should we trust him? Because he has nowhere else to go. The Council hates him. The other exile species fear him. You are the only ones who have ever beaten him fairly. The messenger bowed its massive head. He respects strength. You have shown strength. And so the human colonies gained their first alien allies. The Cathani were brutal, yes, but they were also loyal once their loyalty was given. Gorin himself became one of Taiwu's most trusted commanders, his forearms proving useful in combat situations that humans could not handle. By the 20th year, the exile colonies numbered 12 worlds. 20 million humans lived across the dead zone, which they had renamed the New Frontier. They had hospitals that could cure diseases the Council had never solved. They had schools that taught children to dream bigger than their parents. They had farms that grew food in soil that had been dead for 1 billion years. And they had weapons. So many weapons. Lee Hanna had never stopped being a spy. While the others built cities and ships, she built something different. She built a network of information that stretched back into Council space like invisible threads. "They think we are dead," she reported to Jinho on his 70th birthday. "The Council has officially closed all files on human existence. We are listed as extinct through natural causes." Jinho laughed. It was not a happy laugh. Natural causes. They sent us into the darkness to die and called it natural. There is more. Anna pulled up a hologram showing Council space. Their alliance is weakening. 3 species have left in the past 10 years. 2 more are threatening to leave. The Velen are demanding reparations for the station attack that they now admit was staged. They admit it? Not publicly. But my sources say the truth is spreading. Many species are starting to ask questions about why humanity was really banished. Jinho stood and walked to his window. Outside, the city of New Dawn spread across the horizon. Towers of glass and steel. Parks filled with trees from 100 worlds. Children playing in streets that had not existed 20 years ago. "It is almost time," he said quietly. Behind him, Yuna, Taiwu, Sora, and Hannah stood together. They had been young once. Now they were the leaders of a civilization that had risen from nothing. Time for what? Sora asked. Jin-Ho turned back to them. Despite his age, despite his white hair and his cane, his eyes were still the same eyes that had faced the council without fear. Time to show them what we have become. He pressed a button on his desk. A hologram appeared, showing a massive ship, larger than anything ever built. Its hull was black as space, covered with weapons that Yuna had designed from ancient alien technology. Its engines glowed with the light of captured stars. "I call it the Reckoning," Jin-Ho said, "and it is ready." In the darkness of the new frontier, humanity had built more than an empire. They had built a future, and now they were going to claim it. The Council patrol ship Star Watcher was on a routine mission near the Dead Zone border when its sensors detected something impossible, Captain, the scanning officer said, his three eyes blinking rapidly with confusion. "I am reading a vessel approaching from the Forbidden Region. Configuration unknown. Speed ... impossible." Captain Veth of the Palaxian fleet moved to the scanner display. What he saw made his gray blood run cold. The ship was beautiful and terrifying. It moved through space like a predator, black against the stars, its hull covered in designs that looked almost organic. It was half the size of his patrol cruiser, but something about it made his instincts scream danger. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Channel open." "Captain, unknown vessel. This is Captain Veth of the Galactic Council Patrol Fleet. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself immediately." The response came in a language that made every officer on the bridge freeze. "Council vessel, this is Admiral Kim Sora of the Human Navy. We are not entering your space. We are simply reminding you that we exist, humans." The word spread through the ship like a virus. Humans were dead. Humans had been extinct for over 20 years. Every child in Council space knew this. It was history. It was fact. It was a lie. Captain Veth tried to keep his voice steady. "That is impossible. The human species was eliminated through natural causes." "Yes, we have heard." Sora's voice was calm, almost amused. "Funny how dying naturally led to us building 12 colony worlds and a fleet of 400 warships. We must have misunderstood what death means." Veth looked at his weapons officer. "Target that ship." "Captain, our targeting systems they are not working. Something is blocking them. Then ram them if you have to. Our engines are offline as well." On the human ship, Sora smiled as she watched the Council patrol struggle helplessly. The void net that Yuna had designed worked perfectly. Without firing a single shot, she had disabled every system on the enemy vessel that could hurt her. "Captain Veth," she said, "I am going to let you go now. You will return to your commanders and tell them what you have seen. You will tell them that the humans send their regards. And you will tell them that we remember what was done to us." "We remember everything." Her ship turned and vanished into the darkness. Moving faster than anything Veth had ever seen, he sat in his captain's chair for a long time, staring at the empty space where the human vessel had been. Then he gave the order to return to Council space. The galaxy was about to change. 3 days later, High Counselor Viren sat in his private chamber, reading reports that made his hands shake. He was very old now, over 200 years by his species counting. He had ruled the Council for most of that time. He had maintained order. He had protected the balance. He had sent humanity to die, and humanity had not died. How is this possible? He demanded of his advisors, who stood before him looking equally terrified. "We cut off all their resources. We sent them into the most dangerous region of the galaxy. They should have been dead within a decade. We do not know, High Counselor. Our intelligence suggests they found something in the Dead Zone. Ancient technology. From a species predating our records. That is a myth. It appears the myths were real." Viren stood and walked to his window. Outside, the orbital station turned slowly above Palax Prime. Millions of his people lived their lives below, unaware that everything they knew was about to be threatened. "Our estimates suggest between 400 and 800. But High Counselor, specifications are ... concerning. Their vessels appear to be significantly more advanced than our own, more advanced than the combined Council fleet. The advisor hesitated. We cannot say for certain, but the patrol ship was disabled without the humans firing a single weapon. If they can do that to one ship, Bjorn understood. If they could do that to one ship, they could do it to 1,000. Call an emergency session, he ordered. Every council member, every military commander, we must prepare. Prepare for what, High Counselor? For war. But before war could be declared, something else happened. Something that Viron had not expected. The humans sent a message. It appeared on every screen in council space simultaneously. Every news channel, every communication device, every government system. The face of an old human male, white-haired and wrinkled, but with eyes that burned like stars. Kangyo smiled at the galaxy. Citizens of the Galactic Council. My name is Kang Jin-ho. 23 years ago, stood before your leaders and was told that my species had no place among you. We were called dangerous. We were called aggressive. We were called a disease that needed to be removed. He paused, letting the words sink in. Your council sent us into the dead zone, expecting us to die quietly. They were wrong. We did not die. We built, grew. We became something your council never imagined possible. The image behind him changed to show the human colonies. Cities of light spreading across once dead worlds. Ships moving through space in perfect formation. Children playing in parks under alien suns. We have 12 worlds now. 20 million citizens. A fleet that your military cannot match. We have cured diseases that plagued your species for millennia. We have developed technology that makes your most advanced systems look like children's toys. His voice hardened. You fear what we might become? You were right to fear, but you made a mistake. You thought that sending us into the darkness would end us? Instead, the darkness made us stronger. He leaned forward. I am not here to threaten you. I am here to tell you a simple truth. We remember what was done to us. We remember the lies that were told. We remember the families that were torn apart, the children who died in radiation storms, the dreams that were destroyed because your council was afraid of what we represented. His voice softened slightly. But we are not monsters. We do not want revenge. We want recognition. We want acknowledgement of what was done. And we want a chance to show the galaxy that humanity has earned its place among the stars. He stood straight, looking directly into the camera. Hi, Counselor Viren. I know you are watching. I know you are preparing your fleets. I know you are planning to destroy us before we become too powerful. I offer you a choice. Meet with us. Talk with us. End this conflict before it begins. Or send your ships and learn what the Dead Zone taught us about survival, the message ended. Across the galaxy, 10 trillion beings had just discovered that humanity was alive, and humanity was coming home in his chamber. Viren crushed the communication device in his hand. His choice was already made. There would be no negotiation. There would only be war. The council fleet gathered at the threshold, the invisible line between their space and the region. They still called the Dead Zone. 10,000 warships from 12 species. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Battleships the size of small moons. Carriers launching endless waves of fighters. Destroyers armed with weapons that could crack planets. High Counselor Viren watched from his flagship, the Pride of Palax. Around him, admirals and generals from a dozen worlds stood in nervous silence. They had never fought together like this. The council was built on politics, not war. But Viren had convinced them that humanity was a threat too great to ignore. Today we correct a mistake, Viren announced to his commanders. 23 years ago, we showed mercy. We sent the humans into exile instead of destroying them completely. That mercy has come back to haunt us. Today, we end the human threat forever. The fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 10,000 ships against whatever the humans could gather. On the other side of the threshold, Kang Jin-ho stood on the bridge of the reckoning. The massive dreadnought hummed with power that the council could not even detect. Around it, 800 human ships waited in the darkness. Sir Kim Sora reported from her position at the tactical station. Council fleet is approaching. 10,000 vessels. They will be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Jinho nodded slowly. He was 81 years old. His body was failing him. The doctors said he had perhaps a year left to live, but he had promised his people he would see this through. Open a channel to the Council flagship. Channel open. Hi, Counselor Viren. I am offering you one final chance. Recognize human sovereignty. Acknowledge the crimes committed against our people, and we can end this without bloodshed. Ron's gray face appeared on the screen. He was old too, but his eyes showed nothing but hatred. You dare offer terms? You are outnumbered 12-1. Your species should have died in the darkness where we sent you. Today, we finish what we started. I had hoped you would say something different, but I suppose some things cannot be changed. Goodbye, Ambassador. Your species ends today. The channel closed. Ginho looked around at his bridge crew. Park Eunice stood at the engineering station, her gray hair tied back, her hands steady on the controls. Choi Tai-woo was at the weapons console, his scarred face showing no fear. Lihanna monitored communications, tracking every movement of the enemy fleet, and Sora sat ready at the tactical station, waiting for the order. My friends, Jinho said quietly, we have come a long way together. From the shame of that council chamber to the darkness of exile. From the hope of new dawn to this moment, here at the edge of everything we have built. Whatever happens today, know that I am proud. Proud of what we achieved. Proud of who we became. Proud to stand beside you. Yuna wiped a tear from her eye. Tai-woo nodded once. Hannah smiled. Sora straightened in her chair.
Ow.
Jinho said, his voice growing stronger. Let us show them what humans are made of. The battle began. The Council fleet fired first. 10,000 ships releasing enough firepower to destroy a solar system. The space between the fleets filled with light and death, and then the void. Net activated. Yuna's greatest creation spread across the battlefield like an invisible wave. It moved through Council ships, touching their systems with fingers of pure energy. Shields flickered. Weapons went silent. Engines died. In seconds, 4,000 Council ships were floating helplessly in space. The remaining 6,000 pressed forward. Their commanders screaming in confusion and fear. Engage, Sora commanded. 800 human vessels moved like a single organism. They flowed through the Council formation with grace and precision, their weapons striking exactly where the shields were weakest. Tai-woo had studied Council tactics for 20 years. He knew every formation, every weakness, every blind spot. The Council fleet began to collapse. Sora led the vanguard herself, her personal fighter weaving between enemy ships with moves that seemed impossible. Behind her, 100 pilots followed her lead, trusting her instincts more than their own sensors. Admiral, one of her pilots called. The Council flagship is trying to retreat. No, they do not get to run. Sora turned her fighter toward the Pride of Palax. All Vanguard units, follow me. We end this now. The Pride of Palax was massive, a floating fortress that had ruled Council space for centuries. Its weapons could destroy small moons. Its shields could withstand nuclear fire. It had never been defeated in battle. Today, that would change. The reckoning moved forward, its black hull absorbing enemy fire like a shadow swallowing light. On its bridge, Jinho gave the final order. Target their engines. Disabled, do not destroy. Yuna's weapons struck with perfect accuracy. The Council flagship shuddered and stopped moving. Their shields are down, Tai-woo reported. We can board them. Despite his age, despite his failing body, he walked to the transport bay himself. Sir, you cannot go over there, Sora protested through the communication system. I have waited 23 years for this moment, Admiral. I will see it through personally. When Viren was dragged onto the bridge of his own ship in restraints, he found the old human ambassador waiting for him. Ginho sat in the Council captain's chair, looking out at the ruins of the great fleet. Of the 10,000 ships that had come to destroy humanity, less than 3,000 remained operational. The rest were disabled, captured, or destroyed. Human losses were minimal. How? Viren demanded. How did you do this? You never understood us, Jinho said simply. You saw our growth and called it dangerous. You saw our adaptability and called it threatening. You never considered that those same qualities might make us impossible to destroy. He stood and walked toward the counselor. I could kill you now. My people would cheer. After everything you have done, no one would blame me. He stopped in front of Viren, looking into his gray eyes. But that is not who we are. That is not who the darkness made us. He turned to the captured crew of the flagship. Today marks the end of the Galactic Council as it was, but it does not have to be the end of everything. We came here not for revenge, but for recognition. Not for conquest, but for peace. His voice carried across the ship's speakers, broadcasting to every vessel in the battle. I offer all Council species a choice. Join us in building something new. The human accord will welcome any species that treats others as equals. We will share our technology. We will share our medicine. We will share everything we learned in the darkness. All we ask in return is respect. He looked at Viren one final time. You called us young once. You called us dangerous. You were right. But you forgot something important about the young. High Counselor. He smiled. The young inherit the future. 100 years later, a young girl stood in a museum on New Dawn. Around her, holographic displays showed the history of humanity, Earth, the Council, the exile, the return. Teacher, she asked her guide, a kind old man with gray hair, why did the Council send the humans away? The old man thought for a moment. They were afraid, little one. Afraid of what humans might become. And what did humans become? He gestured at the window where the skyline of New Dawn spread across the horizon. Ships from 100 worlds flew overhead. Citizens of 50 species walked the streets together. We became this, he said. We became home for everyone who was ever afraid or alone or forgotten. We became what they never expected. What is that? We became kind. The girl smiled and ran off to look at more exhibits. The old man watched her go. Then he turned to a nearby statue. It showed 4 figures standing together. A diplomat, an engineer, a soldier, a pilot. Below the statue, simple words were carved into stone. They sent us into the darkness, expecting us to die. Instead, we built a light that will never go out. The human accord stretched across 1,000 worlds now. The old council was a memory. And somewhere, in the endless expanse of space, humanity continued to grow. Not because they were dangerous, but because they had learned. In the darkness of exile, what truly mattered. Each other, always each other.